lovers, my name is Carrie and this is Spines and Spoilers. Today I want to talk about my reading wrap-up for April. I actually read quite a few books this month. First, a couple of things though. I'm sure you've noticed that the lighting is different. My fan actually broke, sent sparks down on the living room, broke, so I'm not messing with the light. I don't trust it. I'm not messing with it. So we're just using natural light from the window and the door right now. I also like to start off my videos with what I'm drinking and what I'm reading. I'm drinking ice water, which is nothing new. I am also drinking a Monster. Let me see. Ultra Fantasy Ruby Red Monster. And that was my mistake because it's honestly not very good. Every time I see a new Monster flavor and I'm like, maybe this one will be the one, it ends up being terrible. So I guess I just have to stop doing that. As for what I am reading though, I am reading The Unworthy by Augustina Basterica. It is good so far. I'm trying to rush through it if I can because it's due back at the library and I'm pretty sure someone else has a hold on it. But so far, typical Augustina Basterica, excuse me. So I guess we'll see. So far it's kind of typical Augustina Basterica, which is either really good or really bad depending on how you feel about her writing, I suppose. She is a lot for me, and after I'm done with this I'll probably have to read some sort of palate cleanser, which I actually had to do a lot in April, so let's get into my reading wrap up. Moving on to the books I read in April though, the first one that I read was an audiobook from Libby called Have I Told You This Already by Lauren Graham. This is her second autobiography, and I find that I enjoy hearing how her brain works, like reading how her brain works. She also narrates the audiobooks, which helps. I think it also comes back to how much you like her style of comedy as well, because there is a lot of that. I'm going to try and remember to include the format that I read books in as well. That was an audiobook from Libby. The second book that I read in April was Dopamine Nation by Anna Limke. It was actually an ebook from Libby and it was about the ways that we are addicted to dopamine in our current society. This is one of those books where it's like, I agreed with a lot of the things that the author said, but some of them were like borderline problematic. There is definitely something to take away from it. Just go in with caution. A lot of nonfiction this month. The third book that I read was The Men We Reaped by Jesmyn Ward. It was another ebook from Libby. Not sponsored, but Libby has been a lifesaver. Men We Reaped is autobiographical and it is about the men who were in Jesmyn Ward's life who kind of helped shape her as a person. As usual, it is beautifully written. If you have never read Jesmyn Ward's work, I really recommend it. Just make sure that you bring a tissue no matter what you read because all of her writing is beautiful but heartbreaking. This is no exception, even though it's nonfiction. The fourth book that I read in April was Unlearning Shame by Devin Price. I read it in the ebook format, but it was my own personal ebook in this case. This one's a bit on the personal side, as you can imagine. It was one of those books though where it was interesting and informative and I did get something from it, but it went on too long, which I feel happens a lot with nonfiction books because the authors feel so pressured to make it the length of a novel. And in this case, he probably just could have made it like 100 pages shorter at least. The fifth book that I read in April was Before Your Memory Fades, Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I read it, you guessed it, on Libby in the audiobook format. This is the third book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, I guess it is at this point. I just read the fourth one last month in March and realized that I had skipped entirely over 3, so I went back and read that one as well. I have no new notes for this series. It's still kind of strangely written, but I don't care because so much of it is wholesome. It is also heartbreaking and one of those where I have to step back for a minute after reading them because they are extremely sad, but they're also very sweet and I enjoy them. The sixth book that I read in April was Super Bloom by Nicholas Carr. It is a physical book, but I had to return it to the library, which I'm a little sad about because I really liked this book. I do unfortunately think that it did go on too long, but I think that it had a lot of really interesting things to say about our dependence on technology and the fact that it has really driven us apart as a society. With the development of each new technology that's meant to unite us, it seems like we just end up being pushed farther and farther and farther apart, sadly. The seventh book that I read in April was Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza by Peter Beinart. If you leave any negative comments in my comment section, I will delete it and probably report you. This is not the time or place for it. I do think that this was an extremely interesting read and a pretty important read in this day and time. If you are conflicted about the entire issue, then I do encourage you to give it a look. For these next 4 books, I'm just going to cover them all at once. The Hunger Games series, of course. So every year around this time, I end up reading the Hunger Games series, rereading it rather. This year in March, I read Sunrise on the Reaping, so it was even more important. And this is the first time that I've actually reread Songbirds and Snakes, so that was interesting. I liked it a lot more the second time around. Like, don't get me wrong, I adore the entire series. It's one of the remaining special interests and hyperfixations that I have. I could probably talk about it forever, but this is the one that I have the least experience with and I've read the least. But I do like how Suzanne Collins really develops Snow's narcissism over time and then leaves these breadcrumbs along the way to be like, no, he was actually always like that and was just doing his absolute best to hide it and be in denial. Now I'm losing count a little bit, but I think we're on number 12. The 12th book that I read in April, though, is Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I hate to say it, but this book did disappoint me a bit, which I don't usually say for Stephen Graham Jones books. I still liked it, but I can't give it its usual rating. It's like a 3.5 or a 4. I really wanted to like it, but it kind of droned on and on in some places. I do still feel like it is worth reading, but definitely look up the trigger warnings first and stuff like that. I thought that the ending was particularly strange, but interesting and probably my favorite part of the book, oddly enough, when I read the physical copy of that from my library. The 13th book that I read this month was You Are Fatally Invited by Andy Pliageau. I loved this so much. It's very tropey, but deliberately so, and it turns some of it on its head. Some of it's really predictable. I do love a story, though, that can surprise me, and this one did. I kind of wrote out my predictions on paper, and I got some of it, I did, but then it twisted things at the ending. It's like, okay, all right, that makes sense, actually, in hindsight. I just didn't catch that. But yeah, this was just, I don't know if I would necessarily say it was fun because some of it was very tense, but I really enjoyed it. If you like mysteries, if you like tropey books, if you like reading books that turn tropes on their heads, this is a really good one. It's one of those books where I read it and I immediately wished that I had a physical copy of my own. This is a library book, unfortunately, and I have to return it. But I wish I had a physical copy of it so I could read it again. I have to return it tomorrow. I might actually keep an eye out for a physical copy of this, though, when I actually have money to get one. The 14th book that I read in April was another audiobook from Libby. It was Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave by El Cosmano. It's the 5th book in the Finley Donovan series. If you don't know about them, they're just fun mysteries. Fun, goofy mysteries. They're not serious. At least not particularly. There are some tense moments, but for the most part, they're kind of silly. After reading Buffalo Hunter Hunter and You're Fatally Invited, it was a really nice palate cleanser, you know. Hello, Future Carrie here. I just realized that I forgot to add T is for Tuberculosis by John Green to the list. It didn't take me long at all to finish. It's extremely interesting. I genuinely did not know how much tuberculosis was connected to everything, basically. Definitely an interesting read, though, and I kind of think that John Green should stick to nonfiction. That is actually the last book that I read in April. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it so much, more than you know. Feel free to like and share and subscribe and all that jazz if you want to, but what is most important to me personally is that you remember to love yourself. Do you think you can do that? Good, because I know you can. Okay, bye!